Hello and welcome to your Girona Arsenal match review on the Arsenal Bite Size podcast. I'm your host Clayton. Yeah, quick solo this morning just to recap on the game from last night. To be honest, it's mostly going to be looking at the future and who our opponents are. We now know who we will get in the last 16. Not definitively, but we know the kind of permutations of who they're going to be based on the draw, which is going to happen tomorrow. So our potential opponents in the last 16 based on the playoffs are going to be either Feyenoord, AC Milan, Juventus, and or PSV. So exciting times, but yeah, it's going to be a quick little recap on the game last night. I think when I do these solos, I usually go player by player. I won't do that for last night. I'll go player by player to guide me, but don't need to go into detail on everyone. So yeah, I'm hoping to keep this one short. Quick recap from last night. A look ahead to the format. Looking at our path to the final, if we can plot that. I still find it a bit confusing myself, but I've got a graphic that can hopefully guide me as I do that. But yeah, the 18-fold didn't come in last night, so no one-way ticket to Thailand, unfortunately. What a bonkers night! I've got to be honest. I did a split screen jobby last night, so I had the Arsenal game on one half of the screen and then the goal show on the other end. It was absolutely bonkers. It was just goals all the time. I'm just trying to go through and have a look how many goals there were in total. Like, I mean, for people that would have bet on over 2.5 goals, did that come in every game? I think it may have, I know there's like 3-4 games where there wasn't more than 2 goals, which carnage. I mean, Villa beating Celtic 4-2. There was a 6-1 in there. Lille beating Feyenoord 6-1. Man City shitting the bed at one point. Yeah, really, really fun night. Like, I've been a fan of this format. The one thing I've said on this format is like I thought it would be exciting. I thought something new would be good because I found the Champions League a little bit redundant until the quarterfinals. But like, I do think there have been maybe 1 or 2 redundant match days, but it all builds up for this exciting finish, right? And just to summarise, Liverpool, in terms of the top 8, Liverpool ran away with it, 21 points from 8 games, fair play. And I mean, they probably only lost last night anyway because they rotated half of their team pretty much. It was job done for them. They absolutely smashed it. Barcelona in second with 19 points. We finished on the same points as them, but came third in 19 points. I think we've done really well. I think there are a couple of banana skin games in there for us. We obviously lost against Inter, but the way we just dispatched of PSG, Atalanta away as well, like decent point there. And I think in the context of at the time when we played them was they're in a really good run of form as well. So yeah, I think we've done really well. And it's interesting. You kind of look at that goal difference. 3 more goals against Shakhtar. Like, this is nitpicking. It's not a criticism, just interesting to think of for next season. Goal difference matters, I think. If we were in Barcelona's position, we're probably looking at a very different route in the quarterfinals, which I'll get onto later. But yeah, top 8 was Liverpool, Barcelona, Arsenal, Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen, Lille, Aston Villa with a bonkers game at Villa Park. But we don't care about anyone else. We care about the Arsenal, and it was job well done last night. Yeah, let me go through it. Team news. So I think I've said this in this talk. I think Arteta has absolutely nailed the lineups in this competition. When we previewed it with Angus, we were talking about 1 to 3, 4 changes across the team, struggling to pinpoint where. But every time I go through this process every week, right, where I try predict a team, struggle to decide where he's going to make a change here or there, but then the lineup drops and I'm like, oh wow, that all makes so much sense. And I thought it was the same with this. Like, Raya obviously missed out. Arteta said he wasn't fit enough, but like, I think he just wanted an excuse to rest him, to be honest. I think Raya's needed a rest. I think he just didn't want to say that. I personally think he'll be fine for Sunday against City. He even kind of smiled when he was pressed on it. Neto came in and mate, flip here. Now I'm kind of glad we've not seen him this season based on his showing. There was one moment in the first half prior to the goal anyway, where the ball came to him and he kind of hesitated on the ball, dilly-dallied a little bit. And yeah, like, got away with it. And then on the goal, it's a combination of him and Partey, really, isn't it? Partey at right back, like, no new information. We know it's not ideal. We don't have Ben White, Tomiyasu available at the minute. Timber needed a rest. It is what it is. It was I mean, I say it was a dead rubber game, but I'm bloody glad we finished third and not lower because the playoff, sorry, not the playoff, who we got in the round of 16 could have been fucked. So, yeah, I was treating it as a dead rubber, knowing that it finished done in the top 8 anyway, but I'm glad we finished higher up the table. But yeah, didn't have any choice really to play party at right back. And do you know what? Again, it's he was poor for the goal, but his all-round performance, I think, is fine. Like, I mean, there was a period in the first half where again he went on a galloping run, and I was like, Jesus, like I'm praying his hamstring don't go there. But yeah, he was poor for the goal though. But like Neto, oh my god, I mean, and I think the most concerning thing for me was the fact that this guy tried to save it with his hands outside of the box. Like, mate, what are you doing? Yeah, I think the very suspect showing from him. Let's hope we don't need to rely on him at all for the rest of the season. I mean, yeah, there isn't going to be a chance. We're out of the FA Cup. That's it. We're not going to see Neto unless enforced, and I bloody hope it's not enforced. Like I said, I'm not going to go player by player unless I feel like there's someone that I need to talk about. But yeah, that's how their first goal came about. Combination of errors from Partey and Neto. Calafiori, mate, the Italian stallion. He had the ball in the back of the net. Was worked really nicely, actually, weren't it? And yeah, he was found offside, but put it away really nicely through the keeper's legs. We were 1-0 down, got ourselves a penalty, which Uncle Jorginho tucked away really nicely. Good showing from him. Yeah, good penalty. Marino, I don't want to be negative, just not quite there with him, to be honest. I think he's very good at anticipating where the ball goes, winning the second balls, all of that good stuff. I just feel like that's all good, but we're a football team. I want to see more from him as a footballer, and I'm not quite there. Feels like he's a little bit technically suspect, if I'm being honest. Like I've said this before, right? Like I see him miskick the ball and underhit or overhit passes. Like I don't think he's technically clean, which is something that I'm a little bit worried about. And I take the caveat. I forgot who it was, but like one of the guests we've had on this season made a really good point about like when you don't, I think it may have been Simon actually, when you've not been there for pre-season, when you miss a first chunk of the season through injury, like it does take time to get up to speed. So I tried to remember that before coming to a conclusive headspace on him. But yeah, every game I watch him, I see part value in what he does, but a larger part of me, like, oh, not there with him personally. Nwaneri, mate, this guy, freak talent. What a goal. Like to do that in the Champions League, and he's clearly got this finish in his locker, right? Like we've seen clips do the rounds from his kind of Hale End days, but we've seen it against, was it Preston in the EFL Cup? Doing this on the Champions League stage, getting man of the match. He's now the second youngest Englishman to score in the Champions League after Jude Bellingham. What a freak talent we have on our hands here. And I think there's a lot of debate. Is there a lot of debate? I think there's divisive opinions on like what's his best position, this, that. I quite like him in the right wing spot for this team and how we play, especially with the kind of reliance on getting out wide and getting crosses in. And when there is risk-taking ability, I prefer him out wide than I do in the kind of central area at the minute. And I just think I don't want to coach that risk-taking ability out of him. But I think when you've got that, you keep it wide rather than central. And do you remember like Wenger used to talk about when getting central players bedded into the team, he would put them out wide because it would half the angles they've got, it would half the space they've got to operate, so their decision making would get better. I think that's an area that is a developmental area for Nwaneri. I do think he loses the ball a fair bit when it comes into him, and it's not a criticism, not a bad thing. It's part of the process to go through when you're a youngster. Whereas Miles Lewis-Skelly, if I can compare the two, I think Miles Lewis-Skelly has better ball retention and slightly better decision making under pressure at the minute, which again, it's not a negative comparison. It's just different strengths, different developmental areas of the two. And I think Nwaneri would actually really suit being on the wide areas of the pitch and coming inside more rather than being fixated inside where it's a higher pressure environment, quicker decision makings, all of that. I think it's part of his development to become a better, well-rounded player being out there. And I think he's got such an amazing delivery on him. Again, with the game model we're playing, where we're very reliant on crosses, I think it suits him to a T. And ironically, against Brighton, he was out on the wing, and I didn't think it was amazing despite him scoring. But I do think this is a really good position for him at the minute, especially while Saka's out. And I mean, you look at our options. I mean, who can play out on the right? It's Martinelli, Nwaneri, Sterling. I think there's certain games where I'd even put him above Martinelli on the right. I think there's certain games where you kind of want that lefty who can come in, put in crosses. There's certain games where you want that Martinelli who can kind of go on the outside and take it to the opponent. So I mean, he's above Sterling in the pecking order, isn't he? So yeah, really, really. I mean, that finish, I just can't. Like, I don't think we're deeping how crazy it is to be able to replicate that on a consistent basis. It's like it's the shoulder feint, it's the shimmy, it's the ability to create the space, and then it's the combination of power and technique at such a young age that blows my mind. Like to hit it that clean, it's not just technique, it's not just power, it's a combination of both, which I think is so rare to have at that age, and it is frightening, honestly. So, what a talent we have there. Really happy for him. On the other flank, Sterling. Do you know what? He obviously missed a penalty, right? And I mean, that kind of sums up how things are going for him in his loan spell at Arsenal at the minute. But there were moments in the first half I thought he was doing well, if I'm being completely honest. I may be on my own, and I do think there may be an element of people judging him based on the outcome of he missed a penalty rather than look at like he was the one that I think put the was it him or Nwaneri? I can't confess to remember this 100%, but I feel like Sterling was involved in the passage of play that got to Calafiori putting the ball in the net. Ball in the net. Granted, it was ruled off for offside. There were moments in the first half where Sterling took on his man really well and gave us something again that I felt like we've been lacking, which he did for a tiny spell against Man United, but there was like a short fuse that was clicking there and didn't quite light on fire. But there were a couple. If I'm being true to myself, there were a couple of moments in the game I was encouraged with what I saw from him. I think unfortunately the penalty miss is just going to cloud that. But yeah, I want to say there were a couple of moments in the game where I thought Sterling added some variety that I think we've been missing. It didn't sustain over 90, but yeah, that's my honest feelings on it. Yeah, it was good to be able to rest Havertz as well. Trossard played false nine. Don't really think we have much options at the minute, but yeah, all in all, job well done. Like I said at the start, there was a period in the game where I was kind of constantly refreshing the table and looking at who's going to play who in the round of 16 and the permutations. And there was a moment where it could have been us against the Real Madrids, the Bayerns, the City, and all of that. But that brings me on to the next slide. So for anyone watching on YouTube, I've got the graphic up, which is the kind of yeah, it's the whole Champions League bracket. It's got all the different permutations there. And I must confess, I do find this quite hard to follow. But what we know now is based on our league finish. We finished third. Inter Milan finished fourth. So if we get to the final, won't play Inter Milan until the final. In terms of the next round, so the playoffs happen. I don't actually know when they are, but whenever the playoffs happen, the draw is tomorrow. And our opponents that we can get, like I said, are the teams that finished 13th, 14th, 19th, and 20th. So that's either AC Milan, PSV, Feyenoord, or Juventus. When we then play them, this is where things get interesting. So if you look on the graphic, it's two different sides of the draw, and it's all dependent on who you get. But let's just say we got one of Feyenoord, Juventus, AC Milan, PSV. We then get to the quarterfinals, and this is where shit gets interesting. It's gonna be one of Celtic, Man City, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich as a team, or Atletico Madrid or Leverkusen, and it's like, oh my god! I mean, the good news is one of City, Madrid, Munich, Bayern Munich that are gonna get knocked out regardless in the playoffs. But it's like, okay, fair enough. I do like the opponents we can possibly get in the round of 16, which are final Juventus, AC Milan, PSV. I do back us to beat them. But then the reward for that is absolutely brutal, isn't it? And like you've got to say, like the way the format has worked out, Liverpool, Barcelona coming first and second, they've been rewarded as a result. So their possible opponents in the round of 16 are Monaco, Brest, PSG, Benfica. And then in the quarters, it would be the likes of Sporting Lisbon, Club Brugge, Atalanta, Dortmund, Lille, Villa. Like I don't see or hear any of those opponents that worry them. And you have to say it's a reward for finishing in the top two. And like, mate, again, it's a learning for next season. Do we go for the goal difference in games where you can stat pad? Because fundamentally, the difference between us getting a tough quarterfinal and them getting a tough semi-final and an easier route there, it was goal difference in the difference between us and Barcelona. Not saying not deserved, but yeah, just an interesting learning. So yeah, that's our route to get into the semis, where we can then obviously play any of the final four at that point. It's I don't want to jinx it, but a favourable round of 16, one of Feyenoord, Juventus, AC Milan, PSV, and then a bloody tricky quarterfinal, one of Celtic, Man City, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen. I mean, bring it on, right? Like, who do we want? Let me know in the comments. Like, if you're watching live, let me know live. If you're watching this back on YouTube, let me know in the comments. Who do you want? And yeah, let me know two things. Who do you want from a fan perspective, like the glamour of the draw and all of that? And who do you think is the easiest path for us to get to the semis? I'm not plotting the whole route to the final, just because then I think it's one too many ifs and buts and what ifs to plot that until the semis. It would obviously be one of the final four, so it doesn't really matter at this point. But let me know who you want more than anything. In terms of who I want from the actual round of 16, there's two parts of my brain here. One is the fan that would probably get a ticket for all of them, I want to say. And the second part of me is the fan that wants the easiest route to the quarters, which is going to be tough anyway. I'll do both. As a fan, for the day out and the Euro trip, I think it's got to be Juventus. I've done PSV. I've been to the San Siro for the Inter game. I've been to the San Siro before for the Milan derby as well, so not that bothered about going again, to be honest. Plus, Milan is a shithole, in my opinion. Unpopular opinion, perhaps, but yeah, not bothered about Milan. PSV, I'd love to go again, to be honest. I've done PSV, but like Amsterdam has my heart. So Feyenoord, yeah, could I do it? Would I like to go to Amsterdam again? Absolutely. He's not live in the chat, but regular listener, Uncle Mike, I know he'll listen back to this. We went to PSV. Well, we didn't go together, but we spent a lot of the time out there together. And that was a rascal trip. PSV or Feyenoord, we would both be back out there having a laugh, I think. So I would love that. But I think it's got to be Juventus, to be honest. Yeah, that could be carnage, I think, Juventus. So yeah, I think fan order in terms of away day, Euro trip, I would probably rank it Juventus, Feyenoord, PSV, AC Milan. Now, from the club's perspective, and well, from the fan perspective of who do I want from the easiest route to the quarters, I think, I mean, I'd say Juventus last. Like, I'd probably need to recap on like how they're all getting on domestically. So let's have a little look. Where are Juventus in Serie A? I know they've become a bit of a meme for like draws and stuff. So Juventus are fifth with bloody hell, 13 draws out of 22. AC Milan are seventh. They've got a game in hand on Juve, to be fair. So if they win their game in hand, they go joint on points with Juventus. And then where are PSV and Feyenoord in their respective leagues? I mean, the fact that Feyenoord just got slapped 6-1 by Lille. Yeah, I mean, I know that's very lazy analysis, but okay, PSV are running away with the Eredivisie. So yeah, I think with that in mind, Feyenoord are fourth. The fact that they got slapped, again, very lazy analysis. I would probably say want Feyenoord, then PSV, then AC Milan, then Juventus. There's something, again, it might be lazy analysis. There's something about Juventus where I don't know, like that kind of big club bad. Like I back us to beat them as a footballing side, but is it Thiago Motta, their manager as well? And I want to say, like, I know they're not doing amazing this year, but I know he's a very highly rated manager. And there's something about the Champions League where these kind of highly rated managers in a one-off game over two legs, they can pull out all the tactical masterclasses, right? So yeah, I think from that perspective of the club, like wanting an easy route to the quarterfinal, I'd probably go Feyenoord, PSV, AC Milan, then Juventus. Pontus is in the chat. Good morning, my friend. He's saying way too early for me to think about it. Just going to take it as it comes. But PSV or Feyenoord in the round of 16. Yeah, fair play. From a match-going fan, you will probably love Juve or Milan, though. Yeah, he knows me well. I know. I take your point, Pontus, on way too early to think about it beyond that. But you know me. I'm going to do it. Quarterfinals. I'll do it from the same perspective, two different perspectives. Out of Celtic, Man City, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen, who do I want from the? I mean, there's one answer there from the match-going fan perspective. Give me Real Madrid. Like that is purely putting the best case scenario for Arsenal on the footballing side. Like that is a bucket list thing for me to go to watch the Arsenal at the Bernabeu. Like I would absolutely love that. I'd be pretty confident I'd get a ticket for it as well. Like that is bucket list shit. If I can watch my football team at the Bernabeu, I was lucky enough to tick off the San Siro, which was a bucket list one. And to be honest, I don't know if it was because it was like in the league phase of this new format. I think the match day when we played them, I can't remember when it was, but it didn't feel like it had that kind of jeopardy on it. So it was low key kind of underwhelming to kind of tick off that bucket list in those circumstances. But a knockout game at the Bernabeu, that is, yeah, like grew up as a kid kind of wanting moments like that. So yeah, that would be the one for me. Another one, which I don't think we'll see happen because I think they may get knocked out by the time we get to that point, is Celtic. Like that would be another bucket list thing for me. Like to be able to go to Celtic Stadium and like I think their atmosphere, as Scottish fans are just different, man. Like they are built different. I would absolutely love that, but unfortunately, I think they'd get knocked out by that point. From the footballing perspective, again, fucking hell, that's difficult, isn't it? Like out of Celtic, City, Madrid, Munich. The two Madrids, Real Madrid, Atletico, and Leverkusen. This sounds bonkers, but I'm going to work on the assumption that I think Celtic will get knocked out by that point. One of the others will also be knocked out. I don't want Atletico over two legs. I think that would be disgusting, honestly. Like from the fan perspective, really cool trip, to be fair, to be able to go to that stadium. But Bayern Munich is the one, by the way, from the fan perspective of match going. I did that last year. I'm not asked about doing it again. Plus, the final is in Munich, so like, I would probably swerve that if we got them and hope that we get to the final to be able to go to Munich again. I didn't win my 18-fold last night, right? So I'm not a millionaire. So got to be selective with the funds. I wouldn't. Do you know what? I'd back us against City over two legs. I really would. I don't know what the deal is in the next. Like, can they register their new players? Kuzanov, Mamouche, and Ray. Is it Rice? Race, the other centre back. Can they register them for the knockout phases? Possibly. But I still back us over two legs against this Man City side. I fancy us against Leverkusen. Again, I know I'm getting carried away, but yeah, I do back us against Leverkusen. The ones that make me shit myself, if I'm being honest, are Atletico and Real over two legs. But I'd love them both from the kind of experience perspective, especially Real Madrid. But Atletico over two legs, oh my god, that scares me. That really does scare me. Yes, I think in order, just assuming they all go through, which they can't, I'd probably take. Let me do it from the match going experience. Real Madrid, Celtic, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen, Man City, Bayern Munich. From the who I want from Arsenal's probability of going through, Celtic, Man City, Leverkusen, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. Have I just said I'd rather play Real Madrid than Atletico Madrid? Yes, I have. I have lost the plot, but all good stuff, all good fun. Yeah, the good news is, I mean, it's funny, like saying we get to avoid Inter until the final. They are probably a team I'd rather play over two legs than in a one-off game. Um, I know we lost against them, and I know they rotated a bit of their side, but I thought second half against it we did all right. But anyway, it's all irrelevant. We don't get to play them until the final, should we get there. But yeah, I'm envious of Liverpool and Barcelona, man. It's I mean, it's well deserved, like I said, but yeah, what a route to the semis that is for them. Monaco, Brest, PSG, Benfica, Sporting, Bruges, Atalanta, Dortmund, Lille, Villa on that side of the draw. Like no dramas at all there. They could possibly be an upset, but it would be that. It would be an upset. And when you're playing in this tournament, that's what you want. You don't want to be, well, I don't know. It depends. Everyone's got their own things, right? On how they want to get to certain places. You want to be the best. You've got to play the best and all of that. I'm someone that right now, given the squad that we have available, given the availability, I just want the easiest route as possible to get to as close to the final as possible, where we can then hopefully have, I mean, we'll find out in the next few days. Are we going to have some more additions, or are we going to have a Bukayo Saka back by the time we get to that point? But the one thing I'll say is Pontus is right. It is way too early to think about all of that, but it's hard not to. It's good fun, right? All we can do is focus on who we get in the round of 16, which we will find out in a couple of weeks. The draw is tomorrow in terms of who plays who out of Feyenoord, Juventus, Milan, PSV. I'll talk just quickly about the Ollie Watkins rumours, and then I'll leave it there. And obviously, going to be back tomorrow to preview the City game. So if anyone's got any questions, let me know. But yeah, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the Ollie Watkins things, the rumours. So the rumours yesterday were we bid 60 million for Ollie Watkins, right? And there's been unconfirmed reports that that fee is a little bit off the mark, and it wasn't quite as high as 60, but I think it's a deal that may happen. I know John Duran has got the here we go to Saudi Arabia, but there's lots of talks of Villa after João Felix. They got Marlon in, and Emery's. I may be over analyzing here, but Emery's wording on Watkins was quite interesting in my opinion. I should have made the effort to get it right in front of my screen so I could read it word for word, because I don't like paraphrasing things like this, because I do think it can get lost in translation. But Emery's wording specifically on Watkins was, I don't want him to be sold. It's good news to have offers from other clubs. Every player can be in the market in case it's good for the player, club, and the team. But to get this deal, of course, we are going to be very demanding, and Watkins is our striker. Like that. Let me know how you interpret that, but I interpret that as we are open to selling at a fee. Like, I don't think that is dismissive at all of it as a possibility. And again, I know Duran has got the here we go from Fabrizio Romano, but I mean, there have been outliers where Fabrizio has given the here we go and it's not happened. Must say that they are outliers, but like, is there a scenario where Villa cash in on 2 players, get 1 or 2 in themselves, look to bank profit in this world of PSR? Yeah, I don't know. I don't dismiss it at all. My opinion on Watkins, now this is where I'm slightly torn. So looking it over 2 windows, there's this January and the next summer. What I thought we've need, like I always say, I look at the attacking unit as a group, right? And just for a second, let's just say the group with everyone fit is Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli, Leandro Trossard. Who am I missing? Raheem Sterling on loan. Like just for this season, that's the group as a 6. I think Nwaneri is a 7th option in that group. I think Liverpool as an attacking group are the template to follow. Of the group we've got, so like let's just say Liverpool's group is Darwin Núñez, Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Salah, obviously. Who's the Jota, Chiesa as the sixth. I think there's a lot of parallels we can draw there. Saka is our Salah, like so on, so on. Jesus now, I think, when Sterling came in this season, I think Sterling was our Chiesa. Sixth attacker, don't need to rely on him too much, hopefully. But as a result of how things have panned out, he's had to be bumped up the pecking order. Now, looking at that unit as a group, what we've got, Sterling will be gone in the summer, right? I think in that group, we only have Bukayo Saka that is of a top level talent. I think we need one more to add to that group, whether that's out wide or a centre forward. I don't really care. But the makeup of the group, for my opinion, I think it makes most sense to get that top elite level talent as a left winger. Just because I think there is an area in the left wing in Martinelli, Trossard, Sterling for now, where we've got, in my opinion, good to average players, but we don't have someone that is good to elite. In the centre forward area, I think a refreshed Kai Havertz is very good. I don't think he's going to get to elite, but I don't think he's near the performance levels of average either. Like, that's my opinion. I don't think he's in that bracket. So the upside, in my opinion, of what we can upgrade on and have a higher ceiling impact when we move into the first 11 comes at left wing, in my opinion. And it's interesting because again, looking at the attacking unit as a group, forgetting who's left wing, who's right wing, who's centre forward, the things I feel we're missing as a group in terms of tools and skill sets and attributes is individual brilliance. I think we only have that in Bukayo Saka. I don't think Martinelli, Trossard or Havertz are consistently reliable enough to produce individual brilliance. And I think for the way we play, when everyone's fully fit, for the Champions League, we are lacking that ability to generate moments out of nowhere. That can come from anywhere in the pitch, but I think it would be bloody helpful to have that in the final third. And so bringing it back to recruitment, I think we're going to need two attackers over the next two windows anyway. One is a centre forward, one is a wide forward. Now, what you go and do is interesting. Again, the way I've laid it out, left wing, in my opinion, I don't ask me who that is. I don't know. I don't watch enough European football to know that. But I think there is absolutely an opportunity to go and get a top class elite talent or an elite talent to be in potential to go. And I think that left spot, that left wing spot can absolutely be made for someone to go in and take it from a 6 out of 10 performance level to an 8 or 9 out of 10 performance level. I think Bukayo Saka, for context, is a consistent 8, 9, 10 performance level on the right. I think Kai Havertz, when he's fit, varies between a 6 to a 9. I think there are periods and games where the likes of Martinelli, Trossard vary from a 3, 4 to a 8. That variability is too large, in my opinion. And so the left wing is where we go and absolutely nail that spot. That's a summer job. I don't think that's happening this window. Fine. What do we then do in centre forward? We need a centre forward regardless, because again, the way I spoke about the group, Jesus is out. It's 7 months, right? Like, so forget him. Remove him from your headspace. Bukayo Saka's out for a few months. But again, within the centre forward, what can we do there? We're into the Champions League round of 16. Kai Havertz, regardless of what you think of him, physically cannot play every game until the rest of the season. So we are in the territory of we need a body, regardless. Like, Leandro Trossard can play there as he did last night, but there's a domino effect there on our wide options right now because of Saka being out, because of Jesus being out, aren't great. So if Trossard goes false 9, we can only really play Martinelli or Sterling on the wings, or Nwaneri on the right, Martinelli on the left. Fine. But it's suboptimal, right? It's not great. It's not good enough for where we want to be. So with that in mind, I think the links to Watkins make sense. Being transparent, I think I feel fine about it. Good. That's it. Like, I'm not over the moon. And I'm slightly, ever so slightly underwhelmed. But referencing the context of what you can do in January and what we need, if you could give, for me personally, I would take an elite winger on the left over an elite centre forward if you could pick one. I'm probably on my own there, but it's just in the makeup of the squad building. I think my biggest concern around Arsenal is our volume of good quality chances we're creating more than the poor finishing. As much as the poor finishing can be an issue, I think we get over that if we bump up a tier the volume of chances we create. And that's where I do think you kind of plucking in that individual brilliance from a wide area can help solve that solution. And if you do have an Ollie Watkins, I feel like with Ollie Watkins, it's not a sexy one, but it's a dependable, credible one. And yeah, I know Pontus said in the chat that he where has it gone? Sorry, Matt, I've lost your comment. This is it. Pontus has said he can't see that deal happening now that Duran's going, but I'm not quite there myself yet. But again, I just wanted to react to it in terms of how I feel about it. Like I'm slightly underwhelmed, but it also like you can't complain about needing a body and then complain about the body, right? And that's where I'm at. I do think we absolutely need someone, but I think the club are in a tricky spot here because sure, ideal world, we get a top class centre forward in the summer and we get a top class wide forward in the summer as well, right? And I think the variability in performances in terms of what can be upgraded on in the 11 comes from left wing more than an upgrade on Havertz, in my opinion. For me, Havertz has his flaws. I'm not saying that. And I think there are certain games where we can do better, but that's it. It's certain games. I think a lot of this is influenced at the minute by he is fucked, man. He's played so much football. And I would like a different option to be able to rotate in and around him and give us something different. And on Watkins, by the way, like, I do think he's an underrated player, but I think why am I underwhelmed? It's because I don't think Watkins is that player that generates something for himself. I don't think he's someone that's going to pick up the ball in the final third, drop a shoulder, create a yard for himself. And maybe I'm being harsh. I think he's someone that will fit a system incredibly well. He's a very hard worker. I think he'll fit our off the ball relentlessness really well. He runs the channels phenomenally. He gets himself into positions to. I think this is the one thing I like about him, actually. Like there are certain strikers that make movements that inform where you pass a football. I think that's something Havertz can improve on. I don't think he's ruthlessness enough. I think his movement is smart and it's Berbatov-esque in its subtleness. I think we sometimes need the opposite of that, where we need good movement, but aggressive movement that it really informs directionally where someone passes the football to you. And I think that's what Watkins has. But again, in terms of what I think we sometimes lack, I'm not sure Watkins ticks every box in terms of that individual brilliance. But again, long-term squad building perspective wise, if for the rest of the season, he can come in, he can give us something different. He can help us maximize the freshness of that centre forward position where, like, let's just say one game Havertz is a 20% battery. You plug in a Watkins, you get Havertz refreshed. Like, you're constantly being able to rotate those two options to maximize the freshness. I think that's the thing we're lacking more than anything. And then you supplement the left wing position in the summer. So yeah, one to keep an eye on that. That's where I'm at. Pontus thinks Watkins is very underrated. I think so too. We're at a position, in my opinion, where we want and need someone elite in the centre forward line long term. I'm not sure Watkins is that. But at the same time, given the circumstances we're in of what's happened to Jesus and it being January, I think we're in a tricky position. So I think it is something that makes sense. But I do think it has a knock-on impact on what we do in the summer. I think if we do get Watkins, we don't go and get that kind of top-class centre forward in the summer. And I don't know who that may be. I personally don't think Isaac is attainable anymore, the way things are going. So maybe attention does turn to kind of getting that elite level talent in the wide area. But yeah, that's a little bit on where I'm at. I'm conscious I probably sound like a bit of a I don't know what the word is, like, but I'm probably in that bracket of like, yeah, you can't please everyone, right? But again, I've just got to say my honest opinion on what comes to mind. And I've seen the stats doing the rounds on like his goal record. It is phenomenal in terms of what he's done in the Premier League and stuff. Again, it's not the goal scoring in him that I have any concerns about. It's we constantly face low blocks. The solution, in my opinion, to low blocks is individual brilliance a lot of the time. Does he have that in him? I'm not sure. But I'd be happy if it happened, but just like okay with it. Like, yeah, sure. I think it will give us something really reliable. Not quite the individual brilliance I think we're missing, but it would make sense to me in the context of how things have panned out. So, yeah, that's a little bit from me. Yeah, little recap from the game from last night, some of the permutations for the rest of the campaign in the Champions League, who I'd want from a fan perspective of going out there, the experience, and who I think would best suit Arsenal as well as a little bit on Ollie Watkins. If you've enjoyed that, please drop the stream a like. Thanks for joining, as always. Let me know in the comments below as well when you're watching this back. Who do you want in the Champions League in the round of 16, the quarters, this, there, and beyond? How do you feel about Watkins? Do you think we'll sign anyone come Monday? We will see. I'm back tomorrow to preview the Man City game. And let's see, will we have another 24 hours of constant transfer rumours? I am trying to detach from it, but it is something that is hard to do at the minute. But Watkins was one that I think, like the fact that there was a tangible bid there. I felt like, yeah, I'm happy to talk about that one. It's all the constant rumours I can't be bothered to chat about, to be honest. Just quickly before I get out of here, Pontus said he agrees. Watkins is not ideal, but a very good option. And if we can get that elite level in the left wing and the summer, then it doesn't hinder us. Yeah, I think I pretty much feel the same. But yeah, thanks everyone. Appreciate you joining as always. Yeah, like I said, do the usual logistics. I think I'm 2 free subs away from getting to 350 subs. So if you can help me get there, that would be brilliant on YouTube. And a 5-star review on podcast goes a long way. As I always say, for a little fan-led channel, share this with your mates. Word of mouth goes a long way. Appreciate it. See you tomorrow. Up the Arsenal. 3rd in the Champions League. I mean, I know I said this before, but if you said that to someone in 2019, they'd be confused on what do you mean by 3rd in the Champions League. But in the context of understanding it, they'd be like, do you know what? We're doing all right. And this is a tournament where we don't have a great record in, so I will never take it for granted. Up the Arsenal.